Hey guys, Forgot John coming at you with another Awaken Chaos Era video. On today's video, we're going to be talking about is going to be gear stats, what to look for, what gear to keep, what gear to get rid of. And the way I'm going to show this to you is I'm actually going to try to find a couple example pieces, roll them up, and we're going to go through. And as I'm cleansing out my account, you can kind of have a good idea as to what I'm looking for. And I'm just going to dictate it out so that we have a good thought process that goes along with what you need to be doing to kind of get rid of or save your gear. All right, so first things first, I am remote right now. I am not at my normal streaming YouTube recording area. I'm actually in a hotel room right now. We're traveling for work. I do apologize, so my sound quality might not be quite as good. Obviously, my video quality is not nearly as good because I don't have any little lights that I'm used to using. I do apologize, but thank you so much for watching the video. Please make sure to like and subscribe for my much better content, which will be back as soon as I'm back in town. But in the meantime, so let's go ahead and talk about a few things. One is going to be gear. Now, as you guys are all aware, the only time you should be going into this dungeon section is once you can be doing and farming basically stage 9 or higher. And the reason being is because once you hit stage 9, you can are able to get the 5-star gear. You get 4 and 5-star gear. That's good. The real thing to note is that really until you get to stage like 11, 12, you're not really efficiently getting gear, and you don't need to really be rolling a lot of gear up. What this means is when you're farming for glyphs, you're getting a lot of 5-star gear, which means you get a lot of gear that you can actually just get rid of and feed into other gear. So the purpose of today's video is we're going to talk about, okay, well, what gear do you use on certain characters? What kind of substats do you look for it? And what you should be aware of moving forward. So let's go ahead and let's pull up a character that I know I have pretty extensive gear on. Let's talk about my Zatlux. Okay, my Zatlux has pretty good gear. I'm one of those people where I don't upgrade a whole lot up to 15. As you see here, most of this gear is with a level 15. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So one, the weapon here, notice that it only rolled 3 stats. You don't have to have all 4 stats on a piece of gear. Definitely keep that in mind. With that being said, notice the stats that are listed here. This is attack, crit rate, and crit damage. I do understand that this is a revival set, and a lot of people will argue the point or the fact that you really need to match up your gear sets with your stats. I'm going to be a firm believer and dismay that right now. And the reason being is because broken sets are okay. You don't have to go by a certain set type, because sometimes you just need those stats to really make a difference in your account or get that progression going. I most certainly would not get rid of any pieces of gear just because of, you know, the whatever the set it is in. But if it's rolls like this, I mean, you'd be pretty upset if you got rid of that when you could have had a triple crit rate, crit damage, and attack percent piece of gear, right? So that's an example of it's okay to have these. Now, the other thing to note here is this one here was a tricky one, because notice that it has 3 substats and 2 are +2, and it has defense here. Now, normally you don't typically want pieces of gear that have defense percent, attack percent, and HP percent, because you kind of want to. If you're using like an attack champion, you're probably going for more attack percent and HP, as well as like crit rate, crit damage. Definitely something to keep in mind. But in particular, pieces of gear like this, when you get a couple of rolls into crit damage, defensive percent is an okay justification to keep on a set like this, especially when you unlock that attack percent, which obviously had to come afterwards. So with that being said, there's some things you got to kind of consider and think about when you're really looking at these pieces of gear. But one thing I want you to notice is as I go through these pieces of gear, you're not seeing a whole lot of flat stats on these pieces of gear. Now, of course, as soon as I say that, we come across this piece of gear, which is a disgusting piece of gear. The reason why I say that is because I wasted at least 3 of the level ups, because you get +5, okay? Keep that in mind. You can get +5, so legendaries will get the +5. Epics, if it gets all 4 unlocked, it's going to get a +4, essentially, so you got 1, 3, 4. There are min and maximum rolls on each one. Unfortunately, this one must have, more than likely what happened is it went and got double crit rate on crit damage, and I was like, okay, we're gonna keep this, and then we rolled it up, and we got we probably got the HP unlocked or whatever, and then from there, you know what, I was just hurting, so I rolled it the rest of the way up. But generally speaking, these 2 flat stats here That'd be a no bueno, do not keep it. And the reason being is when you keep gear like that, you're kind of stopgapping yourself. So what's going to happen is you're going to keep that gear and you're going to invest into it. You're going to upgrade it, and then you're going to go upgrade another piece of gear, and you're just going to see the plus whatever, and you're not going to want to go back into that piece of gear and get rid of it. So at that point, you're kind of like pigeonholing yourself onto certain stats. Like this piece here, notice that it has one flat stat. I would say one flat stat is perfectly acceptable on a piece of gear. It just depends on what type of stats you're looking for. I know, once again, for those of you who are kind of new, you're like, John, I don't know what that means. So let's go ahead and let's show you. So let's pull up my backpack here. I'm going to go to my gear, and let's find let's hit manage gear here, and it'll just bring me to the screen. Let's find a piece of gear that would be okay to roll. So let's find a good crit rate, crit damage piece of gear that I'm okay with rolling up. Okay. Now, things I'm noticing and wanting to pay attention to when I'm first looking at a piece of gear and wanting to roll it up. So, for example, let's pull up this Dragon Scale boot here. It's HP percent main stat, okay? Notice we are filtered for crit rate and crit damage. So this means that if I'm going to pick a HP percent main stat for a boot, a ring, or a amulet, I need to kind of be cognizant of, okay, what is the main stats going to go with crit rate and crit damage? Is it going to be attack percent? Is it going to be HP percent? Is it going to be defensive percent? What does the character that your intended purpose of this is scale with? Okay, so in this example here, we have a flat attack, we have an HP percent main, we have a crit damage and a crit rate. It's on Dragon Scale set. This is going to be I would roll this up to 3, and then we would see what we get, and then from there we would keep going. If this were to roll crit rate, crit damage a couple of times, I would say we go ahead and keep it, because then we can use that as a utilization piece with crit rate and crit damage, along with getting some sort of a DPS unit, some extra life to go along with it. However, that doesn't always mean you roll everything up all the way. For example, this is an aim. Let's pick another one here. Let's go defensive main stat. Okay, we have a defensive main stat. We have crit rate, crit damage. All right, I want to explain something to you guys. Oh no, we don't. Okay, let's do that. And I think I had left some on okay, I did leave them on my account. Just making sure. Okay. So a lot of you I know would see this and you go, oh yeah, let's upgrade it. Let's roll this gear. These are types of pieces of gear that you don't do. You do not roll these up for the crit rate, crit damage. The reason being is because your ring is the only piece of gear that is going to allow you to pick crit rate or crit damage as your main stat. So generally speaking, unless you're using an attack percent character, so say for example like Scarlet, it would be a attack percent that you want on everything, right? Because she's using her bleeds with her wolf. She was somebody who she could also attack semi-decent. So if you were to have an attack percent main and then a crit rate and a crit damage for her, that would be okay because she also has other abilities that are going to scale. But for the most part, you really want her to have attack percent because the bleeds are what do most of her damage. Now, there is no ability out there that scales with defense or with HP. So any HP or defensive main stats that are crit rate, crit damage, those are generally speaking going to be immediately trashed because what you're doing is you're breaking the cardinal rule. When I say the cardinal rule, that literally means if you have 2 flat stats on a piece of gear, you need to get rid of it. That is the absolute best hard, fast rule. I don't care how good the piece looks. I don't care if it's crit damage, crit rate, except for that one that's already rolled to 15. Like rolling a piece of gear to 15 is like rolling 4 pieces of gear to 12. Like it's pretty tense. So we're not going to get rid of that. But generally speaking, this means that this crit rate damage here would be considered like a flat stat because you're not going to use it in conjunction with your defense. So here we go. Here we go. Like this crit damage here is going to be a flat stat because you're not going to use this in conjunction with your defensive main stat. This has a flat HP, and that's already 2 strikes against it. And then it's focus and resistance. This whole piece right here is just a waste. So that's something to keep in mind when you're really farming out gear and you're going to try to upgrade gear is, okay, you really need to be kind of whittling these down, and you need to be tough on it. Now, let's go find, let's find a really good piece of gear, that one that I'm willing to roll up. Let's see if we even have it on my account. That's the hardest thing, right, guys? Is you got to make sure that you have enough of the stuff on your account make it worth your time and effort. So let's go find. Let's find a weapon. Weapons could be tricky because you can get speed on a weapon, but you can't get speed on a helm or a chest piece. So let's grab a weapon and let's grab crit rate, crit damage. I like to focus usually on my DPS stuff first and then roll into my HP and sustain stuff later. So let's do this. So we got crit rate, crit damage here. Let's look at the sets. Is there any particular set that I'm really looking for? Not really. So let's move forward here. So we have an AVR or Avarice set here. I do need to get these up. I need Valeria needs to be in them. So we got crit rate, crit damage one. That's going to be perfect. We have a crit rate, crit damage, flat defense. So this means if I were to roll this up to like 6 and we unlock that 4th stat and it gets a flat, it's done. We're done with it. It broke the cardinal rule. Same thing here. It's crit rate, crit damage. This rolls a flat stat within the first 6. It's going to be gone. Within the first 9. It depends on what it rolled. If it rolled crit rate, maybe we'll keep it. But it's going to be super situational, so definitely keep that in mind, because even pieces like this, I really should take this up that one more time, but it's not really worth it. This is kind of a wasted piece. I don't know why I took it up to 14. I'm assuming what I was trying to do really just needed that extra little bit of attack, and I was hoping I could get lucky and get a crit rate roll here, but that's a min crit rate to begin with, so it's not like I'm going to get a whole lot of utility out of this piece of gear. This is where you got caught in a trap where things rainbowed, and I should have stopped at 12 because I rainbowed. You already used the 4. At that point, the RNG gods are probably not going to bless you to get you to a double of the crit damage. Maybe they'll go to the crit rate and it'll be a full rainbow. But generally speaking, when you get +1 on each stat, that's not usually enough utility to really make it worth using. So also keep that in mind as you're rolling up these pieces of gear and you see this +1, +1, +1, and then a +1. How much are you really going to utilize that piece of gear? Because it doesn't stick out, it doesn't actually boost one particular stat that you're looking for. Because the best way to mix and match is to find, like, for example, a crit rate ring here that has, crit rate maxed, right? That gives you a lot of crit rate at one time. And then you look for your crit damage. Like, it helps you achieve one goal and then you move on to the next goal. Whereas if you do a blanket effect, what happens is you kind of cut yourself a little short. You shortchange yourself, you can't actually hit the stats you're looking for. So definitely keep that in mind when you start rainbowing sets of gear. This could be like this right here. I took this to 13. That definitely shouldn't have went. We had 2 flat stats here. This is going to end up getting used as food now. Because I have 2 flat stats here. We're rainbowed. We're not going to get a whole lot out of this piece of gear. This is a waste of gear. I'm definitely going to use this as fodder, especially now that I know it's here. This must have been one of my early pieces of gear, unfortunately. But it's stuff like that that really kind of, escapes people when understanding what to do with gear. So let's go ahead, let's do that crit rate, crit damage filter again. Let's go grab, I think I had the Avarice set. Now this has focus, crit rate, crit damage. Nothing could go wrong on this set. I don't care what stat it goes on, except for if it were to unlock the 4th stat, and the 4th stat would be a flat stat, I'd be very upset. So let's go ahead and let's roll this piece of gear up fairly quickly here, and let's just see what we can do. So as I'm sorting through gear to upgrade, right? We're sorting through gear to upgrade. Here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, these are all blue right here. So I'm going to do a first initial pass of all blues. I do this every time. And what I look for is I look for I look for 1 flat stat, okay? Or I look for, in this case, this is a focus and resistance. I'm going to get rid of it. The reason being is because that focus and resistance, even those are super powerful things. This is on a warrior set, which is an attack set. And I know I said don't worry about set bonuses, this, that, and the other, but this isn't actually getting you any stat increases that are really game changers for your character. The resistance may play a thing later on down the line, but for the most part, having this focus and resistance, and if this were to even go full on all focus or full on resistance, it really wouldn't be worth it, because you have an amulet that you can use that gives you that boost, right? So don't waste an upper level to make up for a lower level that you could really utilize for this. Okay, so we're gonna get rid of that. Okay, we're still in percents, which is great. Now here we have a flat stat HP and a speed. This is gonna be trash. As I keep going here, this is speed and precision. This is gonna be kind of the hard ones. I'm gonna go ahead and trash it because it's, once again, it's in a, we're going to trash it. Even though it's in a Raider set, which is good, you want speed. It's got precision. The chances of that really being utilized are slim to none. And it's 3, I believe, the max, the first starting stat max for speed is 5. So it's not going to be a great piece of gear, regardless, because it's already started at the lower tier. Or maybe it's 3. I could have swore it was 5. I could be wrong, but this one's going to be a keeper. It's got crit damage, right? Crit damage and speed. Precision, it's got defensive percent. That's okay for right now. This isn't a flat defense, so that's going to be gone. Keep talking here. So this is attack percent. That's okay. Resistance, health percent. We got a flat defense. It's gone. We got a focus and a precision. That's gone. We got speed, HP. That's great. Defense, attack. Nope. Absolutely not. It's fine. Okay. So 2 flats, instant gone, instant garbage. Pretty easy to understand how that one just translates into you don't want to put resources into these pieces of gear. The reason why I'm showing this, and this isn't for a distinctive character, like this isn't for a specific character that I'm going to be using, is because I want you to realize that this is something you could be doing on your account ahead of time, which would force you to look at where you need gear and where to farm. Because right now, what I'm doing is I'm taking a very broad spectrum look at my gear as I do these, and I'm like, okay, I really could use some rage pieces of gear, or I could really use some terror pieces of gear. Like I should probably go farm Tulpa, or I'm like, oh, I don't have any raider set. Let's go farm magistrate forever, so that way I can get some speed pieces of gear here. But yeah, notice guys, I'm trying to stick into my hard fast rule here. We're getting rid of all of our blues. I had a lot of gear on this account, and even this one, even though it has crit damage on there, which is really good, it's got a flat HP, so we're gonna go ahead and trash it. I do understand that some of you are gonna probably leave in comments down below, or even you're gonna think in your head like flat HP is still okay. Like it can still be viable in certain situations. I disagree. It's all about perspective. As your character levels up higher, your flat stats are not going to really be the game changer for you. It's going to be your percent, because these all do get based off of your glyphs and off your base stats. So I'm going to go ahead and play devil's advocate here for you, point that out, and say that I personally don't recommend it. And that's because, yes, at certain points in times, it will look like it is a better option, but once you get those people glyphed out and you get their base stats upgraded and you get the boost going, it does end up better, because even as you do an ascension up on a character, which most people forget does count towards your gear situation, because it is a base stat, it does make a big difference. It definitely scales higher and higher. So if you aren't taking that into consideration and you're trying to keep your flat stats, you're actually hurting yourself in the long run, because this gear is not cheap to upgrade. Notice how many pieces of gear have I clicked to go ahead and get rid of here as we're going through this, and I'm only at level 9. This is a piece of gear that's good enough to where I'm going to take this all the way to 12, and I'm going to see what happens. I feel like I get better RNG when I do that versus when I don't do that, and then I kind of get the bad luck, so to speak. I'm not really known for my amazing luck in the game, that's for sure. Alright, so I'm pushing through this really quickly here. I'm trying to go as quick as possible. This was resistance precision. We don't want that. Good flat defense here. We go. Boo. That was percent. So that one's okay. But yeah, we got flats there. Flats everywhere. Here, flat. There, flat. Everywhere, flat, flat. Let's go. I don't know why that just came out of my mouth. I apologize. Lord, I apologize. We're getting slap happy here. We're in another state. We're remote streaming. Oof. Stuff gets rough, man. Stuff gets rough when you're trying to be out there doing work. Okay, so we're almost done with our blues, so these are the easy ones. Now, keep in mind that I did say the golden rule was we get rid of anything that has 2 flats, right? This transfers over into the epic side more so than the legendary side. Because in the blue side, if you get 2 flats, that's just immediate trash. Like, it's immediate. You're not going to, like, this is not going to yield you the results that you really want to see, because you're already minus potentially 2 out of your 5 upgrades, right? Because you're missing 2 substats that could roll. So that definitely hinders your probability chances of getting a better piece of gear. So now we're into the epics. Now this is where this gets interesting. Pieces of gear that rainbow like this, that do H health, attack, defense, these are instant sells, and it's because chances are you don't need all 3 of those stats. What you're looking to do is you're trying to scale in a certain direction. You need to be purposeful of what you're doing with your characters, not so much trying to make the character just super well rounded. You want to have a designated plan, like, okay, this character is going to be a DPS unit, this character is going to be a support unit. This person needs HP to focus. You need to kind of be cognizant of those things in your head as you're going through this gear. And with that being said, that means each piece of gear with its certain stats is going to go with that, okay? So like this one here, we got 1 flat HP, that's okay, we got focus and crit damage on it. That justifies keeping that piece of gear. Now, once again, if I see attack, health, defense, it's going to be gone. Now, this one happened to be in the two flat stat rule, which is very helpful and makes it very easy to get rid of. But stuff like that, it definitely makes a big difference. Even some stuff like this, it is hard to keep some of these things. I will keep it because as I get more in the end game, I'm noticing I need some of these other stats, so to speak, but it's not worth it to make sure if it uses more than the over half the abilities rolls, so to speak. So right here we have precision, we have defense, and we have a flat HP, instant trash. This is attack focus, this is okay. We got 2 flats again, so it's instant gone. We're just getting rid of them, guys. Now this one here, now notice if this was so keep this in mind, if this was a resistance focus and this was a elite, it'd be trash. So now we have resistance focus and defense. So don't get caught up on it, like, oh, well, we got all 3 stats, so now it's okay if we kind of roll some of these. Really not. You're gonna regret it. Even pieces like this is health percent and precision resistance. The chances of that rolling to the health percent is gonna be slim to none. What I would do in this situation is I would take a gear piece like this, I'd roll it to 3. If that first roll does not go to HP percent, it's trash. You got to be a little harsh with your gear starting out. I do understand a lot of you guys are struggling in the gear department. I do fully get that. I do sympathize for you and with you. It did take me a long time to get a lot of this gear going and sort it out here. But by being resilient on filtering it out and trying to get rid of it, I've really managed my account well as far as what characters I can have, what gear I have. The gear I have leveled up super high is not bad gear. It's actually fairly decent gear. And that's the biggest struggle, is because a lot of people have gear, but it's not good gear. They leveled up the first thing they could all the way to 15, thinking that, hey, these resources are going to make the difference. And taking this from 12 to 15 is really going to give me the best increase. Well, honestly, it's not. And you could have gotten 4 other pieces of gear up to 12 before you get 1 piece of gear up to 15. That's where, at that point, it's like, ooh, this is a big slap in the face. Like, this doesn't jive, right? All right, so here's a tough one here. This is defense, crit damage, and speed. What I would do in this situation is I would roll this one, and I would probably roll this all the way up to 6, and I would see where it landed. The reason being is because it does roll to 6, you can go ahead and use it, utilize it, throw it in another piece of gear as a fodder. This would drop you down and give you a +4 on a piece of gear, so then it just allows you to just put a couple more pieces to get it back up to 6 on the next piece of gear. But at things like these, you definitely want to weed out, because you don't want to be sitting on it going, oh, I maybe could do it. But then as soon as you get into that situation where you're desperate, you're really hurting for gear, it's times like that, and you're like, oh yeah, I need to get this now. And then next thing you know, you're wasting a lot of resources. All right, so we got HP percent defense, precision defense. We're just not going to take that, guys. It's too close to 2 flat stats here. That don't really fit the bill. They don't really hit the mark. Now this is HP, defense, and resistance. Now, generally speaking, a lot of people tell you to go ahead and get rid of this because it's on a warrior set. But this is one of the situations where HP, defense, and resistance super helpful for any type of a tank type unit. It would be nice if that was focused, but resistance is a good caveat to have, especially when doing an arena. So this is definitely a key. But that's the things that kind of go in the thought process here. Like, okay, where would I use this piece of gear? Does this synergize correctly? No different than the video that I posted talking about hero synergy. You also need to make sure that the stats on your gear just synergize with themselves. Like, you don't want a 1 piece of gear has all these great support stats and 1 attack percent. You want to really utilize that 1 attack percent. You know what I mean? It's kind of like wasted resources in that case. That one, precision, defense, focus. This is another tough one, but this is going to be trash. And the reason being, even though it has focus percent, which is okay, we have a flat defense and we have precision. They take up too many of the chances they really upgraded to make that piece of gear impact the character that much more. All right. I think we almost have this piece ready to go up to 12 here. We're getting really, really close. That one's going to be okay. It's got speed, crit rate, speed, focus, and attack. I mean, we'll leave it. Stuff like that gets a little in the questionable realm. That's we need to go back and then you hit this with a second pass and you kind of upgrade stuff. I need to start doing that myself. I'm probably going to start doing it very soon. And the reason being is just so that way if I take things up to 3, I can at least see where the first roll is going to go to kind of indicate more so on if I'm going to use something or if I'm going to trash it. I'm really good about if I roll a piece of gear and it's trash, I immediately roll another piece of gear so that way I can get rid of the trash. I keep doing that over and over and again until I get at least one piece of gear that it's okay. That's mainly just because it's habit. I don't like having bad stuff on my account and then getting hoodwinked by myself. All right, so we rolled this to 12. Now this one was an interesting circumstance. It rolled once to crit rate, twice on focus, 0 times on crit damage, and it unlocked defense. This was a kind of a miss. Focus is not a main stat we're going to really rely on with the crit rate, crit damage substats. However, we did get it in this average set. I'll probably keep it for right now. I'll potentially go on my Valeria, but generally speaking, this would be a set where or a piece of gear where I do nope, because the stats don't match. They don't synergize enough to make it useful on my character. And I would stick it into another piece of gear and I'd roll another piece of gear. You've got to make those calls if you really want to progress your account and do the right thing when it comes to gear. All right, I knew that was a long video. I do understand that these guys do get a little long-winded sometimes. I apologize. I hope this helped you though understand like the thought process when upgrading gear and kind of what to be looking for and what to do. And I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Have a good rest of your day.